Getting to Sega's last stand in the hardware business, one of my personal favorite consoles that we mentioned earlier, the Dreamcast. You already went over why it failed, but when it came out with these new features it had, especially the online gaming, what did you think then? Did you think there was hope for it?
Well, we touched on it a little bit. I actually have a whole rant about the failure of the Dreamcast. And again, I tell people, I don't care what anybody says. I can tell you exactly why the Dreamcast fails. Um, and it just has to do with the PS1. And people are like, PS1? No, PS1. Yep, see, that's what everybody says. They go, you mean the PS2, right? And I go, no, the PS1. PS1 comes out, rules the world. I mean, they dominate. They crush Nintendo. The leading, the video game giant. Nintendo thought they couldn't be touched, and Sony crushes them. The PS1 sells millions upon millions. I think it was 90 or 100 million systems, like I mentioned. They did, I think, 1,600 PS1 games, something like that. I mean, you compare that to, I think 600 for the N64, I think. I'm not real sure about the 64 numbers, but they just got crushed. And these people, these gamers, loved their PS1. I mean, my God. I remember a guy bringing a PS1 into my store. He wanted me to fix it. I'm like, fine, we can fix it. You got to leave it overnight. And he was like, really? And I'm like, yeah, really. It'll be ready tomorrow, though. Oh, I don't know if I could do that. I go, dude, it don't work anyways. What are you gonna do? Look at it, drool on it, leave it here. We'll fix it and give it to you tomorrow. And he finally did, but also he brought it in a little like miniature doggy bed wrapped in a towel. Oh my God! I mean, that system was so dominant. So we got the domination of the PS1. So why the Dreamcast failed? There are a few other things which I'll talk to you about, but here's why. So the Dreamcast comes out before the PS2. It has the greatest launch of titles ready at launch of any system ever, and even to this day. There was 20 to 30 titles at launch that you had to have. They were that good. Anything from Sonic Adventure to Soul Calibur to even Ready to Rumble. There's just these awesome, awesome games at launch. Then the system is pretty revolutionary. It's got 4 controller ports, not 2 like the PS1 and the PS2 will have.
That was great.
Yeah, it's got this visual memory unit, which was just amazing. Like, if you wanted to transfer data from one memory card to another on the PS1 or PS2, you had to put one memory card in one slot and the other in the other one. Sony, you didn't even have to have a system. You just snap the 2 memory cards, the Dreamcast memory cartridges together, transfer the data over. It's just amazing. You can also see little pictures on there and, do a playing Madden so they could see you and call that play. And it had a online, Ethernet or internet adapter. That was an extra like $50 for the PS2, when it came out. Yeah, it was just great. And, 128-bit system, games looked amazing. And everybody agreed, even the Sony fans. They go, yes, you're right. That Dreamcast looks amazing. But you know what? If the Dreamcast looks that good, what's that PS2 gonna look like? Oh my God! It's gonna be amazing. I can't wait. I can't spend $299 for a Dreamcast and all that money on games and controllers and VMUs and stuff. I gotta wait till that PlayStation 2 comes out. Well, it comes out. I don't think it's quite as good. I think every game that ever came out on the Dreamcast and you compare it to the same exact game on the PS2, the Dreamcast game always looked better. There's all these problems with the PS2 that they used to talk about. The jaggies, the anti-aliasing, all that stuff. Like I said, you compare the same game like Dead or Alive 2 on the Dreamcast and you compare it to the PS2 and the Dreamcast smokes it. The Dreamcast had 4 controller ports, the PS2 had 2. The Dreamcast had built-in internet adapter. The the PS3 or the PS2, you had to buy that for $50. Just on and on and on. And like I said, the launch of games for the Dreamcast. But there was one more thing besides the fact that all these people bought, and then they buy the PS2 and they're going like, yeah, you're right, it doesn't look a whole lot better than the Dreamcast, if any, but, I bought the PS2, but there was a couple of things. One, the PS2 played the PS1 games and made them look better, so they already had a library of games there. And this is the next big one. It was the PS1 that killed it, and the fact that the PS2 played DVDs. DVDs had actually been around quite a long while before the PS2 came out. I think 4 years. But they were just really starting to take off. It was, again, perfect timing by a company. Perfect. And the PS2, consequently, they ruled the world. And that was it. The Dreamcast didn't have a chance. It didn't matter how good it was. It didn't matter when it came out. It didn't matter. It wouldn't have mattered even if it did play DVDs. I mean, that hurt it. It just wouldn't matter. They ran into the PS1 juggernaut, the love of that PS1, majority of the gaming world. They buy a PS2. Again, like I said, it wasn't any better, if not quite as good, but they have all that money invested in that machine. Some people went out and bought a Dreamcast anyways, but not very many. I don't remember the initial sales that first year. It was 4 million, I think.
I think about 4 million.
Yeah, it was not very good. I mean, man.
I mean, they had spectacular launch numbers.
Yeah, launched, and that was it. It was like 3 million, or no, 3.8 million at launch and 0.2 for the rest of the year. It was really, really bad. It wasn't that bad, but it was really bad. But that's the main. People, if they ask you, why do you think the Dreamcast failed, all you got to do is PS1.